to Recollections May Vary, a royal recap. I'm Kinsey Schofield here with Kevin O'Sullivan. You watch us together on The Political Asylum with Kevin O'Sullivan. Double the trouble, double the fun. Kevin, big Thomas Markle Jr. exclusive. Do you think he's on Meghan's jam distribution list, Kev?
I think he's very much not on the jam distribution list, and he's not on his sister's Christmas card list. I mean, it's not quite the headline, if you want to be strictly accurate, but kind of. You could frame this interview, Why I Hate My Sister by Thomas Markle. I mean, he didn't quite say that, but he said almost as much. He really does not like Meghan. He was with his father, Thomas Markle Sr., in Rosarito in Mexico, as we spoke on Talk last night. And I'll tell you what, I've never spoken to him before, but you get a feeling about people. And I thought he was a very likeable and open guy. So trust me, if I have to choose between Meghan and the Markles or Thomas Markle, I'm on Team Thomas.
Let's discuss some highlights from your chat with Junior. I did a video recapping your conversation with Thomas Markle Jr., and I talked about how Senior says that Meghan was a little too spoiled growing up. And I must have flippantly argued that perhaps that's why she behaved the way that she behaves today. But in the comment section, I saw people disagreeing with me, saying that Meghan's behavior today is cruel and there's no justification for it. How do you respond to that?
Well, Thomas spoke about their childhood and how it was definitely factionalized. It clearly was a sort of family divided. I mean, a lot of people have complicated backgrounds, and the Markles clearly did. And what he said was that him and Samantha were definitely treated differently to Meghan, and that Thomas Markle Sr. Really, really doted on Meghan. And so Thomas Markle Sr. now apparently concedes or says that he thinks he's spoiled her too much. But in terms of the way Thomas thinks about Meghan now, what I was struck by, he said, let's get this right, he said that he thought that she was cruel, rude and fake. He really did not hold back about his sister at all. He said that that the family themselves, including Thomas Markle Sr., have now decided that even if Meghan said, come on, let's mend the bridges, let's be friends again, that they would reject that. They would reject that. They're not interested in her anymore because they no longer trust her. They think she's a schemer, a manipulator, and a user. But I think that, Kinsey, the big news line that I thought came out of my talk with Thomas Markle Jr. was this. So, of course, the story is, the orthodox story is that Thomas Markle, was about to come to Britain to walk his daughter down the aisle back in 2018 when she had that fairy tale marriage with Harry in Windsor. And that, he had a heart attack and was too sick to travel and therefore did not go. There was also this backdrop of the fact that he'd rather unwisely done these pictures with a paparazzi photographer, a guy called Jeff Rayner, where he'd pretended he was getting fitted for his wedding suit and all that. And Meghan was very upset about that. So that was supposed to have derailed the plans for Thomas Markle Sr. to come to London. Well, what his son revealed to me last night, he said, no. He said, of course, those were factors. He said, but the decision was already made. And the reason that Thomas Markle Sr. made the decision not to come to Britain was that Meghan said to him, if you're going to walk me down the aisle, if you're going to be my dad at the wedding, you have to cut off Thomas Markle Jr. and Samantha, your half-sister. You have to cut them off. Never speak to them again. And Thomas Markle Sr., who I think is a nice dad, he just said, well, I'm not prepared to do that. I'm not prepared to do that. And so if you're requiring me to do that, I will not come to your wedding. So I thought that was a very...
I'm going to argue with you here because recollections may vary. I think that Thomas Markle Jr. might have some of Meghan Markle's memory issues because that did happen. Meghan did when Thomas Markle Jr. and Samantha started talking to the press, and they weren't necessarily positive. Meghan did call her father and say, I want you to side with me and not them. I want you to go, I want you to say that that's not true. And he said, I'm not going to be
Yeah, so
critical of
it's
my
true.
other children.
It
Yeah,
work. It
yeah.
stands up,
But
doesn't it?
but
Yeah.
he didn't go to the wedding because he had a heart attack. He was
Nah,
in a
maybe,
hospital bed.
maybe.
Well, I mean, TMZ talked to him in the
What I'm saying
hospital
to you,
bed.
what I'm saying was what I took from what Thomas Markle Jr. said to me was he'd already made that decision. He was never going to go to the wedding because she had issued him, Meghan issued her dad an impossible ultimatum. Choose between me and the other kids, and he refused to do that. Hence, the decision was already made. So interesting.
I think that's interesting. Yeah. So, is there anything else that you took away? I wondered, there was one line, there were a couple of things I didn't agree with that he said. I think he accuses Meghan of having a multiple personality disorder, which I thought, oh man,
No,
you
Matt,
need to
no, that's
come.
not. I agree with you there, Kinsey. She doesn't have a multiple personality disorder. She's only got one personality, and the problem with her personality is it's crap.
It's horrible.
I agree with you there. But he did say that she was an oddball and dislikable, a schemer, a manipulator, a social mountaineer. And I put it to him. I said, well, look, this is the way I see it. And I do see it like this. The reason she's cut off her family is she wants everyone to think that somehow or other she's from the higher echelons of society, top of the social ladder. Well, she's absolutely not. Nothing wrong with that. But I think she's always feared that if she starts saying, this is my dad, Thomas Markle, this is my brother, Tom, and this is my sister, Samantha, these are, in my view, these are good, decent, open Americans, no-nonsense Americans, but they don't fit in with Meghan's idea of what she wants to be. She wants to be the Queen of Montecito, almost American royalty. I come from the very, very top level of society. And she feels that her family would have destroyed that image, the image she's trying to protect to the royal family. Frankly, she's just a snob. She's just a snob, and I think she's embarrassed about her family, and I feel bad for them about that. As I say, I agree. Obviously, in these family disputes, everyone has always got their corner to fight. They've got their story to tell, and a lot of stories clash. But I just got the feeling. I mean, I don't know Meghan. I've never met Meghan, but I've, followed her life as you have. And I can't say that I like her much. And I just thought Thomas Markle Jr. just seemed to me to be a regular guy, a decent guy, who's bemused. He's bemused by her behaviour. He can't understand why she has cut them off. But as I say...
But can I challenge you for 1 second? And I'm with you. I have sympathy for the Markles. I think Meghan should have invited all of them to the wedding, and we wouldn't have had these issues. However, Thomas Markle Jr. did go to jail for threatening his girlfriend with a gun. He was arrested for a DUI. You understand why Meghan would like to distance herself from some of that dysfunction. Am I wrong in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, we've all had our problems, and I don't condone what you just said.
I was going to say, I'm a little embarrassed for King and Justin Bieber's pool, but I didn't do it.
Yeah, but you don't turn your back on your family, and I can tell Thomas Markle, like a lot of people, he's been in trouble. We've all had our moments. I think he's a decent guy. I'm a professional. I've interviewed a lot of people, and I think he's an okay guy, and he speaks for a family that has been wronged by a little social mountaineer who wants to be royalty, but all she really is a two-bit second-rate actress from Hollywood.
I mean, I really do sympathize with Samantha, because I feel like in their documentary, Meghan challenges Samantha as a mother. And I don't, if you're saying that you don't have this relationship with this woman, then you certainly should not have an opinion when it comes to how she is as a mother. And you certainly shouldn't be sharing it with the world, especially in this judgmental fashion. And so when it comes to Samantha challenging Meghan legally, I honestly think that that's fair, because I also think that I think that Samantha wants it on record that a lot of these things that were said were
Yeah.
not true, because they have negatively affected her life and her financial situation. Certain people are not going to want to work with her if they take what Meghan says as fact. What did you think when Thomas said that he felt like the palace should reach out to his father? My initial reaction to that was, Meghan is a Markle problem. Yeah, Meghan was barely in the royal family long enough for them to get to know her or take any sort of ownership for her. Why does he feel like the palace should be reaching out to his family?
Well, I actually do agree with him. I do think the palace owes Thomas Markle Sr. an apology. I do think that the king should talk to them, to that family, and try to unravel the arrant weirdness of the fact that Thomas Markle Sr. has never met his grandchildren. The king has barely ever seen them either. And the fact that he has never met his son-in-law, Prince Harry. I think that the palace do owe the Markles some kind of explanation. The palace acted almost as weirdly as Meghan did by cutting them off. One more thing that I thought was very, very interesting that Thomas Markle Jr. said to me was that he believes that that marriage will not last. And he said the reason is that he believes she is playing a character that is not real. She's trying to pretend to be somebody she isn't, as I just alluded to. She's trying to pretend she's some kind of upper class society queen or something. She's portraying a character, and Thomas thinks that Harry's probably reached the point where he's beginning to realise that the woman he married is not quite the woman that he thought she is, and that she's pretending. She's pretending to be someone else. And I think that's got a lot of credibility.
Just to, I don't know, on the back of that, I guess I would say, I talked to Katie Nichol, who's the Vanity Fair royal correspondent, and she said to me, and she's always very even in her criticism. She rarely criticizes anybody, but I was surprised that she said to me, will the Sussexes ever be happy? And on top of you saying like Meghan's playing a role, I also wonder if Prince Harry is wondering, will I ever make you happy? What's it going to take? We fled my family. We fled my country. I signed on the dotted line on the Netflix contract. I signed on the dotted line on the Spotify contract. You know, aside from maybe realizing that she is potentially playing a role, is he also realizing that he's going to be exhausted for the rest of his life because they're always chasing something? Is she ever going to be happy?
Well, look, we've all kind of been there in relationships, you know, that you get this sort of first burst of romance and love, and you think, this girl is just amazing, you know, and then sort of 6 months later, something happens, you know, and you start to think, oh, hang on, that's a question mark. And then it'll get worse and worse and worse. And so the quote that Thomas said to me last night was this. He said, I think Harry is waking up to what is in his life. And that, of course, is Meghan. And I think, you know, again, we don't know, but I think it's quite an astute observation. And that you're right, Kinsey. You know, when was the last time we saw either of them looking happy? When was the last? I mean, Prince Harry is constantly scowling. I mean, has he reached that point that many people do in a relationship when he's thinking, this isn't quite the woman that I thought I married. Oh, my God, what have I done? I've got a feeling that that might be the case. So in terms of that marriage, watch this space.
There's an adrenaline associated with us against the world. You know, there is an adrenaline when you're scheming, and they started scheming during that Christmas holiday in Canada, and the scheming is over. And I imagine that rush is over. And now they're the only people they have to fight with are themselves, because the royal family are refusing to engage. They've checked out. I imagine, yeah, I think about them on that private jet, Tyler Perry's private jet, fleeing to the States to stay in his house, and how united they must have felt with each other, and um, how excited they were to be seeing their plans come to fruition. But now, nobody really wants to engage with them anymore. Nobody wants to be their friend. I imagine Montecito, we're hearing in Montecito that they're barely seen. I imagine that it's very lonely, and they're just kind of looking at each other going, well, what do we do next? Because what made us so incredibly strong, well, that's over now.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they'll ever see anything similar.
I think you're right. I mean, that plays into what I was just saying. You have the first rush of excitement. When they quit Britain, I think they were still in a rush of excitement about their relationship. They were in a rush of excitement about how the fact they were at the centre of almost global attention. Everyone was talking about them, and it was very thrilling for them, particularly for Harry, who'd led this very cosseted life. This strict, straitjacket royal life. Suddenly, he's jetting around, running away from the paparazzi, going to Hollywood, in the California sun. It was all very, very, very exciting for him, and pretty exciting for Meghan, who'd gone from being, someone that nobody really knew to, the most famous woman in the world. That has now all died down, and it's interesting. I'm probably preempting you here, Kinsey, but we should talk about Robert Hardman's updated book. He's just updated his royal biography called Charles III. So it's going into paperback, I think. So traditionally, you add a few details in, and boy, oh boy, has he added some details. And one of the interesting things about what Hardman has added to his book is the level of fury that palace staff back in Britain and royal courtiers feel about the way Harry and Meghan talked about them after Megxit. Because they went to the ends of the earth to help Meghan adapt. At one point, even saying, right, they need more staff, everything they wanted. The Queen said to Meghan, why don't you talk to Sophie? She knows what it's like to, be an outsider and have to kind of adapt to royal life. They were really, really trying to help her. And then when they got to America, they start saying, everybody ignored Meghan. Nobody cared about Meghan. She was struggling and nobody tried to help her. And they are furious. They are furious over the impression that Harry and Meghan have given about what happened during their time in Britain. And also Hardman concentrates very much on, let's call it what it is, Harry's propensity for lying. And that's what's worrying the king. You're quite right, Kinsey. The king no longer talks to his son. He no longer takes his phone calls, and he no longer answers his messages, because he fears that any contact with his son, with Harry, will result in Harry lying about it. And that's what's in this book. And the most poignant example of that was in his book Spare. Harry says, I'll never forget the day, I was at Eton, the posh public school that he went to. I was studying. Yeah, right. Yeah, should have studied a bit more, Harry. You would have passed the odd exam. But he said he was
studying.
Yeah, studying. Yeah, probably stoned. Yeah. Anyway, he talked about, the sunlight shafting through the window. The colours were vivid. The phone went. And then he said, I wish I could remember who was on the other end of the phone, like you would forget when you're being told your great-grandmother just died. But I wish I could remember.
It's leaving you $40 million or whatever.
Yeah. So he said, I think it was a courtier who said, sir, I'm very sorry to tell you that the Queen Mother has died. So what Harry tried to say there was, there I was, just a poor schoolboy on my own, trying to study, and I suddenly get this faceless, curt call from a courtier, no contact from my father or my family. Oh, poor little me, poor me. Turns out that actually, when he found out that the Queen Mother had died, he was in Switzerland skiing with his dad, Charles and his brother William. They all found out at the same time. It was a bare-faced lie. And that's why the king doesn't trust Harry with giving him any information anymore. Because as the insider in Robert Hardman's book said, you know, frankly, he takes information and then he regurgitates it wrongly. It's not correct. So Harry now finds himself absolutely estranged from his father. His father doesn't take his calls and won't respond to his messages because he doesn't trust him, which is a really sad situation, I think.
Well, you see why the Sussexes are failing in the United States, because they don't have a strong team around them. Images, if you just type in Prince Harry's name and the date that the Queen Mother died, there are images of Prince Harry in Switzerland with his father skiing. You need a strong team around you that do their due diligence and try to make you shine and try to put you in the brightest light, especially in a city like Los Angeles, California. And Kevin, between here and New York City and someplace like Nashville, you're going to find some of the strongest people, marketing wise, PR wise, and representation wise in the entertainment industry. You sit back and you wonder, are people like out to get him? I mean, this is such an obvious mistake. How do you make a mistake like this, Kevin? I just, do you really truly have the worst people in your orbit? The worst book editor, the worst, management or whatever he's working with that are reading the book and not going back to fact check some of these things. I mean, and most books have fact checkers, Kevin. Where was this one? Did they skip that step because they wanted to keep this book so secret? This was a huge fail, and it shows you, it's an example of why the Sussexes have failed to hit the mark here in the States.
Yeah, very good point. In terms of the book and fact-checking, I mean, it's a mystery. But I suspect, I think it's Random House published the book, I suspect that they just felt, well, Harry's saying this, no one's going to turn around to a prince of the realm and say, you're a barefaced liar. They just thought they could get away with it. And in a way they did, because, you know, the royal family never explain, never complain. Apart from Harry, the royals never sue. So I think that the publishers just felt this was okay. And they probably also, I mean, you shouldn't proceed like this, but they probably also thought, well, you know, he's telling this story, you know, sunlight shafting through, vivid colours, I'll never forget, and all that. They probably just thought,
these are the same. This is the same book where he's talking to a trash can, Kevin.
Yeah, Yeah, there is that. Yeah, there is that. But you know, I'm just thinking aloud now. I'm sort of going off piste a bit. You know, I'll always remember when I took a phone call. When my dear old dad died, God rest his soul. You know, it's like me, you know, it is etched in my mind. I can remember exactly what I was wearing, exactly where I was, and of course, who it was that made the phone call. You don't, I took a phone call. I think it was from a Courtier. I can't quite remember. Come on. You remember that kind of call.
Now that you say that, I remember too, when my grandma passed away, it was my father that called me. I was in Scottsdale, Arizona. He was in London. You know, like, yes, you remember those details. It's traumatic. It's, you know, it's haunting. It devastates you. We have to blow through these next few, and I really want to get to the last topic with you. Let's quickly talk about the Duke no longer being a financial burden to King Charles. The Independent has photos of Prince Andrew's rundown $30 million Royal Lodge, and let's just say that the paper describes it as in a state of despair, deteriorating paint, roofing covered in black mold. Is he going to be able to keep up this home? What are his options, Kevin? This is starting to be really embarrassing for him.
Yeah, poor old King Charles. He has two difficult dukes on his hand. One, of course, is Harry. And then, of course, there is the extremely difficult Duke, Prince Andrew, who I think, and to answer your question, I think he's very close to getting kicked out of the Royal Lodge. He's lived there for 20 years or so. And his deal is that he gets it for £250 a week. That's so cheap. However, he did, I believe, spend something like £750,000 sort of repairing it when he first moved in, and he signed a contract to maintain it. So every 2 years, he has to have 2 coats. It's very precise. He has to have 2 coats of paint put on the outside, and I believe the same inside. So he has to rigidly maintain this building according to a contract with the sovereign, with the king. Who ultimately owns the property.
Well, it's the Crown Estate. It's the Crown Estate, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's in Windsor. The Queen Mother used to live there. The Queen herself, that's where she spent much of her happy childhood, running around Royal Lodge. So it's got a real history, a poignant history. It means something to the king, and he's fed up with his brother letting it run to rack and ruin. And the point is that Andrew has been receiving a royal allowance from his brother of £1 million a year, £1 million a year. Can I have a brother, please, who'll give me £1 million a year? But anyway, the king has cut that off. He's also taken away his 10-man security squad. And Andrew has... So the king has said, right, I've taken your £1 million away. You can no longer afford to stick to the contract. You can't maintain this property, can you? Andrew has turned around and said, oh, yes, I can, actually. I've got a new form of income. I'll believe that when I see it. As you say, if you look at it, the pictures, paint's falling off. It is falling into rack and ruin, and he can't afford to maintain it. But he has dug his heels in. He won't leave. He won't leave. Don't forget, he sort of shares it with Fergie. Fergie still lives there as well. But I think we're coming to matters are coming to a head. I think the king is on the point of kicking him out. He wants him to go to Frogmore Cottage, which, by the way, Harry and Meghan, if I remember rightly, spent £2.4 million turning into a lovely home. Why Andrew doesn't want to leave this 30-room ruined mansion and move into a really modern, fabulous Frogmore Cottage, I'll never know. But I think it's...
Yeah, yes, you do. It's ego.
Yeah, that's right. It's brothers at war. That's what it is. Brothers at war. This is his last stand against the king. You will not push me around. Well, trust me, he's going to get pushed around.
And the Daily Mail reported at one point that Prince Andrew's strategy was just to outlive his brother, which is savage and gross. And then the other thing that I saw was that the king is saying, if you don't move into Frogmore Cottage in the timeline that I give you, then Frogmore Cottage is off the table and everything else is worse.
Yeah.
Everything else is not going to be as nice as beautiful Frogmore Cottage. All right, let's talk really quickly. I don't care that Meghan Markle gave Oprah Winfrey over $100 worth of bath products, but I'm seeing it all over the lifestyle websites. The lady lifestyle writers are overly enthusiastic over this mention in Oprah Winfrey's favorite things list. Winfrey wrote, "This is a favorite thing with the scent of a forest sent to me by my neighbor Meghan." And my joke is that they're probably just trying to counteract the weed smoke coming from their porch in Montecito since their neighbors. I have 2 points, Kev. Is this mention something to celebrate? It just reminds us that American Riviera Orchard is not here. And number 2, will Meghan ever become more than an influencer? This is just another example of Meghan being an influencer.
Do you know what, Kinsey? The thing about Meghan is she wants to be an influencer. She wants to make vast amounts of money. She's given interviews about it not so long ago. Do you remember, I think it must have been 2 years ago, something like that, where we were given a story that she was negotiating contracts where she might get $1 million per influencer post on social media. Yeah. She gave an interview a few months back saying, I was astonished about the amount of money that can be made just by posting an influencer post and so on and so forth. As if, she's quite keen on the idea. But here's the deal. She can give all the bathroom products she likes to Oprah Winfrey. I don't think many companies want her as an influencer. Or influencers have to be to be successful as an influencer. You have to be universally popular. If you've got a downside, you won't work as an influencer. And Meghan has a massive downside. So in terms of companies that might want her to promote her products, they'll think, yeah, she's got fans. Oh, wait a minute, she's got a lot of enemies too. So if she goes, buy this, you know, this fantastic bathroom product, I just gave some to Oprah, it's amazing. And loads of people go, oh, Meghan, yeah, that's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Loads of other people will come in and say, if you say it's good, I'm not buying it. And that is very worrying to companies. So I think in her dreams, she'd be a successful influencer, but they will remain her dreams because she hasn't got the right profile to be successful at it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's something she desires to do. Quickly before we get kicked out of the studio, did you see the picture of Kim Kardashian in Princess Diana's cross necklace? Kim Kardashian, who Meghan is eagerly sending jam to the Kardashian family, and Meghan is eager to have a relationship with this family. It was so vile, Kevin. She just basically has duct tape over her nipples, and then she's got Princess Diana's cross. She's wearing Princess Diana's cross. And it's like, Kim Kardashian, first of all, Jesus died on the cross for our sins, not your dirty pillows. Put them away. And it's also kind of vile to me that Meghan is pursuing a relationship with these people. Like, it's just so gross. She's wearing your dead mother-in-law's jewelry. Is that not weird to anybody?
I think it sums up, and I don't mean this in a snobbish way. I mean it in a kind of British way. But Americans, they have a difficulty, not present company accepted, of course. And I'm not saying this is a big criticism, but they have a difficulty differentiating between royalty and celebrity. Royalty is a very, very different thing. Meghan's never quite understood that, which is why she's still trading crosses and hanging around with the Kardashians, and evoking the memory of Diana, as if, Diana and the royals and Charles and Harry are all part of the celebrity firmament. They are not. They are not. And I think it's sad that Meghan conspires to cheapen Diana's memory like that.
Cheapen is a good way to put it. Make sure you tune into Kevin on Talks What Just Happened and the Political Asylum with Kevin O'Sullivan. If you agree with us, let us know in the comments below. Disagree with us, same thing. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you again soon.